We got my good friend and teacher and mentor here, Dean Jackson. So if you guys could say in the chat bar, good morning, Dean. And we're gonna dig right into it. Okay. We're here to get stuff done, right, Dean?
That's exactly right. Very
Yeah.
exciting.
So, Dean, I thought our whole theme could be, and we'll see where we go with it, is where are people making the biggest mistakes in marketing? You see so many people that come into your world. If you were to think
Mm,
what's number one biggest thing that makes you kind of shake your head after all these years, what is it?
mm. That's a really good question because there's so many ways we could go with that. But I think probably the number one thing that I see is people taking their marketing like an expense versus a capital investment. And that changes everything when you really look at thinking about your before unit, the way we think about it, of dividing your business into the three units of before unit, during unit, and after unit, that most people, it's difficult to make this shift of thinking about the before unit as a completely separate unit of your business, whose only job is to act as a supplier to the during
Mm,
unit. And when you do that, you kind of treat it like a startup, and you're not integrating it into the or accounting for it as an expense of the during unit business. And that it's kind of a very interesting thing because when you make that shift, a lot of times people they budget, and those are all words of expense-based things. They budget their marketing budget as 10 or 12, or if they're being aggressive, 14% of their revenue. But that's kind of like gauging it from the rear view mirror in a way, right? That they're thinking about they got to keep their marketing expenses under this, you know, 10, 12, 14%. Whereas if you think about where you want to go, if you want to double your business, if you want to double the revenue that you're doing, it's a faster way to think is to start thinking about making a capital investment in the additional revenue that you're doing rather than keeping it gauged to how fast you're growing. Imagine if you took a capital investment approach that you are going to forward invest into that additional revenue. And part of the thing is really thinking about living into your capacity rather than thinking about your slow and steady growth. How much could you do?
yeah, that's really good. And when you say I started off today's legacy call, what do you notice when there's economy shifting? I notice people start to pull back
Well,
on
that's
marketing
exactly right.
instead of
Yeah.
doubling down on it.
Yeah. And I think that's really the thing. It's all these investment mindset is very different. If you think, you hear that Warren Buffett often talks about that being, uh, you know, greedy when people are fearful and fearful when people are greedy. It's kind of a thing of being counterintuitively thinking that there's opportunities because everybody else is going to be paring back because they
Mm,
look at their marketing as an expense rather than a capital investment, or their marketing systems are not set up as vending machines, that they're
mm.
putting that money in a slot machine and hoping that everything comes out.
Yeah, yeah. I shared, and I wonder about your thought around this. I have used this over the last month. I said, how much do you believe in your business? And Dean,
Yeah.
everybody's like, yeah, I believe in it. And I'm like, would you sell your house tomorrow and and just like downsize and living in a hotel room for 6 months and take all that money and throw it in your business? Who would do that? And the hands go
Of
right
course.
now.
And that's it's not it's that they don't have confidence in the marketing to be able to do that, right? But conversely, I used to do these big real estate seminars, and I would say to the realtors, I would ask them, I'd say, imagine if Elon Musk was going to open up, factories in your town. Let's say we were in Dallas. He's going to open up a big giga factory in Dallas, and they're going to send 50 executives to Dallas. And they want to work with you, Michael. They're saying, we're going to send you one executive a week. We want them to find a house during the week and be back home with their families on the weekend, and then we'll send the next one. And we'll send that for a year with you. And all we'd ask is that you pay a 25% referral to Tesla Financial. Uh, and I ask how many people would be willing to do that, right? To raise, and every single person was 100% willing to work with Elon Musk or somebody on that level, that they
Yeah.
send them the client, they find them a house, and then they pay them 25% of the transaction. And so if you look at it, that if that was if taken 50 executives and that 25% was $2,500 per, if it was a $10,000 transaction, if you do the math on, 50 times 25,000, how many people would be willing to write the $125,000 check up front? And most people are not, because they don't have the confidence in the ability to take that money and multiply it, that way, right? So, but everybody's 100%, they've got the means and they would be happy to pay 25%. So I think if you take that same thing, I often ask people, like, the questions that you have to ask to yourself are, given your During unit circumstances right now, how high is high? How much capacity do you have given your current, if you're a home services business, number of trucks, or if you're a manufacturing company, your current equipment, or you're a printing press, how much could you possibly put on the line? There's a great story. There's a guy, Gamal Aziz, who ran the MGM Grand Hotel. And when he came into the MGM Grand, the first thing he did was he looked at all of the revenue generating line items on the budget there. And instead of looking for how can we make a 20% improvement across the board, right? Gradual, constant, never ending improvement on everything. His question was, how high is high? Like, how much could we be doing here? And so, for example, he broke it down to restaurants and retail and gaming and hotels and conventions and all the components of the revenue generators, right? Entertainment. And so, starting with the restaurants, he looked at all of the food and beverage that they do. And they had a flagship restaurant that was doing $4 million a year in their one location right there in the hotel. And it was profitable. Nobody would have complained about it and saw it as a problem. But he would sit in the entrance of the hotel every night, and he would see people coming out of the largest hotel in the world. He'd have them see him coming out, getting in limos and taxis. He'd say, "Where are you going?" They said, "We're going to Spago, or we're going to Nobu, or we're going to these destination restaurants," right? That's where they're off to. And he thought to himself, if we had a celebrity chef and a destination
Mm.
restaurant at our hotel, we could be doing $8 million a year instead of $4 million a year. And here's what he did: is in his mind, he books that as a loss. And so he calls the philosophy working backwards. And so he looks at that we could be doing $8 million in this restaurant. We're doing 4 million. We're losing $4 million a year by not doing this. So he went to the board, got them to agree to his plan. So they closed down the restaurant, they ripped it out, partnered with Michael Mina, redid the restaurant, reopened it up in the same footprint, same amount of square footage on the things. First year out, they did $11 million in sales. And he went through and did everything like that. He rethought the shows, they, if you've ever been to MGM Grand, they have sky lofts at the top two floors of the things. Before that, they had all these high roller suites, that would be for the top gamblers. But he realized they're not a gambling hotel in the same way that Bellagio or Caesars or the big traditional hotels were. They were the largest convention hotel in the world, and that the need is that all of these executives for, let's say they're going to Concrete World, that the executives of Concrete World, they would have a need for entertainment suites while they're at the thing. So he created these sky lofts on the top two floors, and they rented out on average $3,400 a night, and turned it into this amazing profit center that they're booked solid for all of the conventions. So that kind of thinking, I say to people, if you look at your current business, look at what your capacity is based on the number of trucks that you have, or the number of locations, or the number of employees, or how much you could possibly service, and then work backwards from there. What would it take, to fill that and stop losing money on that?
Yeah, that's so good. Type in the chat bar what that's triggering for you, because, Dean, what always amazed me is we can release, years ago in my service company, we could release 10% of the employees, and we did 30% more revenue, which is like the same thing. I wonder if you did the math, what would happen. Last week when we were talking and you were on with us and the owners of Food Dog, you had a comment you made, because I'm always talking to you about robots and aliens and all this
Yeah.
stuff. And your comment was not what will change, it's what won't change. Can you talk about that a minute?
Yeah, sure. Because we were asking about that. I heard that was a great quote that was attributed to Jeff Bezos, where Jeff said that people always ask him, that he feels like he's got his finger on the future, and they're asking him what's going to change in the next 10 years, like what's coming. And his answer was amazing. He said, I don't know what's going to change. And nobody does, but he says, but that's not what we're building the company on. We're betting on what's not going to change. And I know that 10 years from now, people are going to want as wide a selection of products as they can get, at the lowest price that they can get them, as fast as they can get them. So every technology, everything that we change is only to drive those three durable drivers of the future. Is this going to help us expand the number of products? Is this going to make us more price efficient? Is this going to make us more operationally efficient to get things to people faster? And I think that if you really just look at the core things of any business has those things. I've said that to our realtors, that if you look at it, what's not going to change in the next 25 years of real estate is people are going to want to sell their house for as much money as they can get in as little time as they can, as fast as they can sell it with as little hassles as possible, right? And I think that if you really look at what are the core drivers of what people really want in their engagement with any business, with you, that's a really great way to hitch your wagon to, what are those core drivers, and just get better at those core things.
Yeah. What's your theory about, because a lot of times when you're dealing with economic situations, there's diversification, right? Diversify But what about what is your feeling between diversify and double down on, the one thing that you're doing?
I like both. I like to double down and diversify at the same time. If you think about I always say, like, you look at, it's almost like compartmentalizing, having silos of things and having each one as a driver, right? It'd be very similar to, I use Procter and Gamble a lot as an example, right? You would say that Procter and Gamble is both focused and diversified at the same time, in that
Mm,
they have 23 individual billion-dollar brands, and they're 100% focused on each one of those brands with a team of people whose only thought is that one brand. But collectively, they own all of that, So I think you can do those things, but there's a great book actually called the P&G 99, and it was written by a former P&G executive about the 99 principles that they use. And you don't actually need to read it. I'll tell you the top three is the first one, which was amazing, is plan to dominate. And that's a really interesting word pairing, right? That you can't say plan to dominate without changing your physiology. Is
right.
that's really the thing. If they're not dabbling, they're not planning to dabble in the laundry detergent market. They're looking to dominate the laundry detergent. And they know that there's a 28% premium for being the number one brand in any category. That because there's a whole group of people who just buy the leading brand of things, right? And there's a big moving sidewalk that goes along with it. So they go into, we're planning to dominate this. We're not just going to dabble. Then the next thing that requires is that you uh, build the very best product or service from the customer's perspective. So they're not trying to make it more affordable or more effective, or, I mean, more, cost efficient or anything like that. They're building the very best. What is the very best solution for this? There's a guy, Richard Mill, who started a watch company, and maybe people are familiar with it, but they make high-end watches that their average price is $185,000 for the Richard Mill watches. And they looked at it and said his whole approach was, this guy, 52-year-old guy that started the company. And he said, I want to build the very best watch that's durable and beautiful and the best engineered watch possible. And he started with that as the premise. Let's build the very best watch, and then we'll figure out what it needs to cost. And what happened was just, you know, serendipitously, they ended up alone in the market. That there's lots of 30 to $50,000 watches, and there's other $1 million watches that are these museum timepieces that you have to keep in temperature controlled things, and you can't look at them crooked or they're fragile. But this thing was like, their audience is people. If you have a super yacht, of course you're going to have a $185,000 watch. And if you've got a garage of 5 supercars, of course
Yeah.
you're going to have one that you wear on your wrist. It was a no-brainer. And the last numbers I heard, the last year I heard of sales, they sold $540 million of these watches, right? So, but it started with build the very best product from the customer's perspective. And then the third thing from that P&G 99 was to treat each brand as an independent unit. has to stand on its own. It's siloed from everything else. It's under the same kind of philosophical and corporate umbrella, but they're all independent units. That's what we're looking at, you know? So I think if you think about that, that's totally applicable to whatever business, you know, that whatever business people are running is just think about it that way.
Yeah, it's awesome. Everybody types on in the chat bar because those three things alone, just putting it through your filter, like one, dominate, like is that through and through
Mhm.
your culture? Very best product. And if it is the very best product, you're screaming it from the mountain top.
Right.
And then treat each brand as independent unit. Like, hey, if you're in HVAC, like dependent and also plumbing, or you're in bookkeeping and you're like, those are just really, really incredible. And guys, everybody on here, if you see people, you're like, who are those? Well, it's probably a bunch of our team. Bassam's on here, who's our copywriter, and Fritz is on here, who's one of our builders who builds in Go High Level and landing pages, and Emmeline's on here. So if you see people, you're like, what happened? What are all these legacy members? Well, they're all on our team, guys, learning. Dean, just because it came to my mind, you shared last week a great theory of output versus activity when it comes to either team or almost anything. Could you share a couple minutes on that?
Yeah, so you know, the whole idea is to really focus everybody on what is the outcome that we're trying to create here, right? What is the rather than looking at the amount of time and effort that you put into something or the things is what's the best way to create the output that you're looking for, right? That when you're really focused on results or you're focused on outcome and you're crystal clear of what the key metric that you're trying to drive is, everything then becomes about how can we move the needle on that the most rather than doing things more efficiently, you know? What was the
Mm.
context of how we were talking about it?
We
Remind
were
me.
talking about it on when it comes to team versus
Mm.
instead of looking at it as I'm running the actions, what is the
Right.
desired outcome that's coming from each action of each
Yes.
team member?
Yeah. Perfect.
Yeah.
I need to grab my charger, Mike. I'll be right back.
Yeah. Yeah. No problem. Everybody go to your start, stop, keep doing, and breakthrough, and type in or write down one thing, and then tell me in the chat bar what's something you're going to start doing. I would bring some of these concepts. I would consider bringing the domination and the very best product, and I would and the treat each brand, and I would bring it to my management team or my team, and I would say, how do we know we're dominating? Like, and then I would say, what makes us the very best product? And they say, oh, we have a 10-year warranty. Okay, but everybody has a damn 10-year warranty. And we sell this brand. Well, lots of people sell that brand. And that allows you to create a differentiator there for you to think about. Yeah, Kathy, plan to dominate, not dabble. Exactly, Kathy. That's the difference between showing up on social media as you're the best in the world, right? Versus, not saying anything. Hey, Dean, I did a post this morning on social media, and I wanted to get your feedback on it. And what I did, I'll
Mhm.
share if you guys didn't see my post. I did it. One of my secret strategies was, and it was triggered when I was in the store in Virginia, was I saw when I was helping my son, the Farmer's Almanac.
Mhm.
And what I used to do with the Farmer's Almanac over a decade ago is I would open it up to New Jersey and I would see what the Farmer's Almanac said about the weather and the snow in New Jersey. And then I would immediately, where companies would say they have a shoulder season, I would go, and my whole rule was I never had a shoulder season because I made people feel hot earlier than they were hot and cold before they were cold. And my theory
Uh-huh.
was marketing is emotionally moving people from where they're at to where you want them to be.
Yeah.
So, talk a little bit about the emotions of marketing versus sitting there and the person is ready to buy right now, making them feel like if I don't buy this most expensive watch, my Lamborghini friends are going to make fun of me or something.
I think that that's built in, right? I think that that's built into when you really understand why people do things. I just read a great book called Contagious, and it's
Mm,
about why ideas spread. Some ideas spread and others don't. And, you think about that the things that are most predictable about it is that we talk about, and it's primarily through word of mouth, why people share things, is because we share things that make us look good. And if we know that the story of something, right, like there's a lot of this, what evolutionary psychologists would call virtue signaling, right? Or status signaling, that there's things
mm,
that would be why we wear certain things to indicate our belonging to something, right? That's why when you look at Apple products, the things that they're kind of that there's some visual things that people feel good, that people will look at them and know that they are part of the in crowd kind of thing. Like the Apple, I mean, the MacBooks are beautiful uh, computers, and there was a lot of talk about the whether the apple should be oriented so that it faces the owner of the Apple the MacBook, so that when it's closed, it's facing you and it looks right, or whether it should be open when the computer's open, that people see the thing. And that was a big debate on the thing, that they ended up that the real value is in the spreadability of it, and having the apple be upright when the laptop is open is a much makes something easier to spread than the value of having it look right to the person who owns the MacBook, even for just that minute before they open it. And it's a kind of an interesting thing. You think about it like wearing your belt buckle so that it looks right when you look down at it, or when people are
mm,
looking at it. And so I think when you start thinking about how little things, when you create this whole ecosystem of all of these little things that make people feel, how can you make the intangible tangible? Even to the extent that they become more spreadable because of it. It's kind of
mm,
so I think when you look at how people, if you're kind of engineering in the spreadability of something, you have to take into account that the primary driver is that we definitely want to look good, and we want to feel like people think we're cool. That's a big piece of it.
mm. Yeah, yeah. It makes me think like Chris, they do swimming pool stuff. It's like marketing is again, it's seasonal. And I always think of like, my marketing is selling to somebody of they're tired of watching someone else's future. So I was just thinking about like what ad I would
Mm,
write. As your children sit there peeking through the fence once again as the neighbor cooks the very best burgers and the kids smile as they do cannonballs into the pool, as your
right.
kids look back at you wondering, is this what, is this the type
Yeah.
of dad they have or something? You go,
Yeah.
I'm going to have a pool, like I'm going to get a pool right now because
Yeah.
I
I
want
mean, I
my
could
kids.
see that scenario. That's a TV
Yeah.
commercial waiting to happen. The kids longingly looking through the fence at the other family, and then looking back at their dad sitting, comes out in the backyard, and the look of disappointment on their face. And I mean, what a
Yeah.
great way to solve a story.
And they have a nice Weber grill and the dad's like burning the hot dogs
Mm,
or something. It reminded me because I don't know if I ever showed you this. This is a long time ago. So this is probably 18 years ago, but This is my thinking, guys, of what he was saying about kind of the status signaling. So this was a door hanger, Dean. It said it's just not fair. Those pesky neighbors saving more money than you on every service call and on each utility bill and getting more comfort out of their home. The
The
nerve.
nerve.
Well, you can't blame them, blame us. Like we're falling on the sword, right? We're
Ah,
responsible for keeping their plumbing, heating, cooling, electrical system serviced to peak condition. Our techs know how to squeeze every energy dollar during a tune-up and how to keep your system running like new. And we'd love to do this for you too. So pretend this door hanger is a crisp $25 bill towards your next service call. That's right. We'll knock $25 off the top just for being a good sport. Tell your
ah,
neighbors you're onto their secret now.
yes.
That ought to get their conversation going.
I love that.
So talk a little bit about compelling versus convincing marketing and stuff.
Oh, I think that's really like that's an amazing thing. I love door hangers like when you're looking at things like that. I did a lot of work with a company called the Mosquito Authority, and they do mosquito control, where they'll come and treat your yard and all the mosquitoes will disappear for 3 weeks. And we did door hangers that would go around around the home. So imagine the door hanger is a cartoon of you, the perspective, you opening the door, and there's these mosquitoes standing outside, and they say to you, the dialogue is, "Oh, hi, we were staying over in the Aguilera yard, but they called mosquito authorities, so we had to get out. Can we stay with you?"
That's awesome. Yeah.
And then on the back was the offer for absolutely positively no mosquitoes in your yard, guaranteed, period. And we'd offer a free mosquito treatment to get the things. But, that kind of thinking, is so, when you get people like right at the core of what their thing is, if the neighbors if they're driving all the mosquitoes out of your yard, it makes sense that they're going to be looking for a new place. Well, we don't want them here either. So let's get let's get rid of them there. That kind of thinking of what's what's inherent in the situation that would be, uh, you know, that you can leverage. Because that everybody, it is when you think about, we all want status, we all want to look good, we all want to add value to people. So one of the things that we did with the is we gave everybody who came on as a new customer, we gave them 3 golden tickets that they could give to their friends that was for a free mosquito treatment. And so you think about now, this is going to be their status is going to go up because now they're going to look cool that we've got a service that we don't have any mosquitoes in our backyard. And then we give you, now we can pass this on to you. It's different than, that way. So one of the things when, I know a lot of people have like VIP programs or member programs where people pay, a monthly thing to get top of the line, front of the line and no service calls and all this umbrella of benefits that they can get. And one of the great things that you can do to improve that spreadability is offer that as an umbrella that they can offer it to their inner circle. That so if anybody in your family or friends has an emergency issue or needs something done, that they get the same benefit as you, that's like makes them look like a hero. And that's what AAA does, that same thing. The reason, dads buy AAA is because their wives and daughters are going to be out, and they feel like that's the safety. If they're out somewhere that I can't get to them, that their AAA will go and do it, because that man might feel like, oh, I could change a tire, or I don't need that for me. But the umbrella of protection that it gives their family is pretty amazing, right?
Wow. Dig a little deeper because as I'm looking around, everybody type in what industry you're in the chat
Yeah.
bar. Because when I look in here, Dean, I look at the power of the comparison effect from
Mhm.
really good and dominating the best in the world and really bad. So I look at like carries in bookkeeping. So I'm like, how do you
Mhm.
show what really, really bad bookkeeping is? It's like a woman in a really dark office. She's chewing gum, she's smoking a cigarette, she spilled coffee on the paper, and it's like this is the bookkeeper that you're paying, but you can't see her, but this is really what's happening. And then it flips over to Carrie, right? And it's like a clean, organized, and everybody's function efficiency. And you immediately question, right? What is my bookkeeper really like? Talk about like where else have you seen this comparison that's just like brilliant marketing?
Mm. I think, when you look at I think you have to kind of have an eye on what are the core things, right? Like, what is it that, if you look at the, let's just take the core things that are going to be there is the speed of something, that something's happening, the certainty that an outcome is going to happen, the time, that would be the speed stuff, the cost of something, the evidence of it, I
Mm,
think is we have to kind of look at every environment to see where would they recognize, where is it going to be a problem? Because it's generally most things are not a problem until it is a problem. It's like, and to be able to bring that present to see that somebody, if you're prepared for that problem or you experience that problem or you have evidence of it, what it's so funny that when you plant emotional when you change the frame of something, like one of the things we did with the Mosquito Authority was bringing it to not just the nuisance of mosquitoes, but to the danger of mosquitoes. Like every year to this day, thousands of people every year die from West Nile virus, which is spread through mosquitoes. So when you look at one of the things we did was send a postcard. Every year, the CDC issues a warning right on the front page of their website. So we tapped into that and said, we created a postcard that said, if you or anyone you know has been bitten by a mosquito in the last 30 days, read this. And we talked about that they've issued a warning. We immediately magnified the problem and then offered the solution. The Mosquito Authority is offering a free mosquito treatment for residents of Stone Mountain, Georgia. It's kind of a thing. Actually, I can share
yeah.
an example of that with you. There's the postcard that we did right there. If you or someone you know has been bitten by a mosquito in the last 30 days, read this. Or looking at the use case scenarios, right? Think about we would hear people, so now your kids can play in the yard without getting eaten alive by mosquitoes.
Yeah.
And then, of course, the first question people ask, well, is it safe? Well, spray the mosquitoes, not your kids. That's the kind of thing people feel happy to just spray the bug repellent on their kids. Well, let's not do that. Let's spray the mosquitoes and get rid of them. Or now you can entertain your yard without getting eaten alive by mosquitoes. And these pictures are what you really want. They're the aspirational things. That's what you want. Is you want to see your kids feeling safe to go out and play. And the reason that we learned these things was because we did this one. And when people called, the first question that we would ask them, they'd say, hey, I'm calling about the free mosquito treatment, or I got the yellow postcard. And one guy was saying, I'm in the infected area. Like you, because we put the boundaries around, I'm in the infected area. But we would ask them, the first question would be, is everybody okay? We'd bring it right back to the safety of the thing, right? It's like, okay, you've gotten away with it so far. But then we would ask them, what's going on in your yard? Because we want them to tell us what's the primary complaint that they have, right? So if they say, exactly that, we were trying to have dinner out on the patio last night, but the mosquitoes were eating more than we were, was one thing that people actually said. Or my kids love to play out in the yard, but every time they come in, they're covered in welts with mosquitoes. So we were gathering intelligence of the pain points that they're expressing, right? Gardening. We love to be out in the garden, but as soon as the sun goes down, we have the mosquitoes drive us in, right? So learning those things, we were able to create other appeals that were exactly targeted for those things. Now you can eat in the yard, or now you can eat on the entertain in your yard without being eaten alive by mosquitoes. And those were words that people repeatedly said, we get eaten alive, you know? And so if you think about what would be the scenarios that the biggest pain points are going to come from, and paint those scenarios that if you made the smart choice now, you'll be prepared when that comes. Or when that does come, here's the easy button to get out of that. You know?
Yeah, I love what he's saying, and I hope you guys type in what you're getting to thinking. I think of and I'm going to show a little video for Gary Lightfoot because he's building an RV park. I think if you think of what he just said, that easy button, I'd bring it back to my team, the easy button. If you look at, I think it's Buc-ee's gas station. What's
Yeah,
their
I've
number one
never
thing?
been to a Buc-ee's. I totally want to go.
The cleanest bathroom. And
Yeah,
they took what looks as like, what do you fear most in life besides death? It's using a gas station
right, exactly.
bathroom, right? So this just came to my mind when I was thinking of it. I was like, Gary, you're working on the RV park, and this is a movie, if you guys ever saw it, right? This is a Christmas Vacation, right? And like, here he is. And he's pumping all the shit from the RV, right? And like he's like, what's happening here? And he says like the shitter's full. Like when I think of an RV park, Gary, I think of like someone's pumping, like they're making a mess out of pumping out their garbage. And when you go over there, you have to flip up that trap, and like someone left their 10-day-old shit around it or something. And like, how do you
Right.
bring the Buc-ee's thing? And the other one, Dean, I love the postcard that you showed because I just built this for Kevin Hughes. He didn't test it yet, but I want you to talk about how what someone's already trained, like this yellow, if you get this in your mailbox,
Right.
everybody thinks this is, it's like been there for generations. It's an awareness thing.
Yes.
And what we did was we just did a second notice because years ago I ran a card like this, and someone said they called complaining, how dare you? I didn't see the first notice. So then I said, well, what if we don't send a first notice? We just send a second notice and
Yeah.
make everyone think they missed it. We'll save money on marketing because I needed to save money. And then it would get awareness. And it worked. They just started calling.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I missed the first one. And I would tell the team, oh, no worries. We got you covered. But the reality was we never sent a first one.
Right.
So what is your theory about like when it's actually like
Yeah,
using
we
a
sent the first
vehicle?
notice by smoke signal. You didn't get that? Right.
Right.
Or we
Yeah.
sent the first telepathically. Right. That's
Yeah.
funny.
So what is that bringing up for you guys in the chat bar? Because if you got that yellow notice, what would you do? You would at least read it.
What was
Then
the
you
yellow note? What was that one for?
This one is, well, he gave me his traditional, he does, mechanic stuff, and his original postcards were traditional, like car and oil. And I said, well, let me develop one here, which, we haven't visited Hughes Most, truly, worth your time. And it's a complimentary check and it has this special codes. And then when it flips
Hmm.
over, it's got the you deserve. And at, his thing, we're not just fixing cars, we're building trust one customer at a
Yeah.
time. Then it goes down and says, a bunch of stuff and it gives the address and these are limited, so it puts some sense of urgency. And we haven't tested it yet, but we'll test it, and then if we have to get a little more.
I think it's great. One of those things like the even the color paper, right? Like
Yeah.
I've done so much testing on things. My favorite is there's a paper color called Lift Off Lemon that is like
Mm.
it's bright and it's nice. And the thing it's not neon, but it's bright, you know? There's something like that kind of
Oh yeah, yeah,
yeah, like that kind of yellow.
yeah.
And
You
that's
can't look away,
cool.
right?
Yeah, you see that it's going to stand out in your mailbox for certain.
Yeah, yeah. Talk about lost leaders because I think everybody's like trying to make um quick money instead of big
Mhm.
money. So
Well, I
what are
don't
some
think about
lost
it as a
leaders?
loss leader. I think about things as that in certain situations, I look at your excess capacity and your incremental cost of actually adding something as a asset, as currency that you have that you can deploy. Like so, if I can unpack that mosquito authority idea in the same way that they have, like any business that does uh, services people on a route, like a recurring model, they can accommodate 180 houses per truck that they have, right? So if you have less than, let's say, as soon as you got one truck, you get up to 180 people. Now, to go to 200, you need a second truck. You have to add a thing. And I imagine it's that same way in any home service business, right? You need technicians and you need the trucks to be able to go and do something. Well, as soon as you add that second truck, you've got 200 people, you've got 100 per truck right now. So you have an excess capacity of, 180, 160 people kind of thing, right? So you're losing right now that amount of money by not having those slots filled, by not having that capacity filled. And your incremental cost of delivery is much less than what the retail price of something is, right? So we realized that if you have that as an asset, that it's so much better and often less expensive to get somebody a result than it is to convince them to give you money to get the result. And so, if you think about that, a $79 mosquito treatment, the incremental cost of doing one may cost $10 in actual incremental costs of doing it because you've already paid for the truck, you've already got the technicians, you've already got the stuff. It's just the juice that you're doing of the actual hard cost of doing it, right? You've already amortized the cost of the sprayers and the stuff like that. So when you really understand that difference, that equity that you have, it only costs you $10 to give somebody what's perceived as a $79 value. It's
Mm.
much less expensive to get them the result than it is to convince them to give you money to try out to maybe get the result. Like people have always been, high awareness about mosquitoes, I use the mosquito thing as a placeholder for any kind of service that you're thinking about. And so to offer somebody a free mosquito treatment means they're going to get an experience of a result. And most people have had bad experiences with that. We've all been promised all the things. You got to get the citronella candles, or you got to get the bug zappers, or the laser things where it attracts them and zaps them. But
Mm.
none of them work as well as the actual treatment that kills all of the mosquitoes on contact, creates a barrier uh,
Mm.
formed that will not, they don't like to land, so they stay away for 3 weeks, right? Once somebody has an experience of it, now they're much more in a better position to make a decision that they don't want to be without it than to take a chance on it, right? Oh, we've got it's not that bad. But once you have an experience of a mosquito-free backyard, you don't want to be without it. And over 80% of the people that do it this year come back next year, right? So the whole game is stacking people up and getting them into that recurring model. So if you've got something that is sold on a recurring basis, anything you can do to get somebody to do this the first time makes a big difference.
Yeah. And I think if you look at the psychology of things, now that I'm hearing you speak about, like when you go in the mall and that woman's got the chocolate covered strawberries with the
Hmm.
Godiva chocolate, and you take one, you bite it, and they're like, oh, we have a special. You're already thinking, I just ate $4 for free. Right.
Hmm.
So why don't I go also buy more? And also, I think the carpet cleaner, like the Hoover vacuum, right? That was, come in and I'll vacuum your like a room up to 10 by 10 for you. And once you see
Hmm.
the stuff they're sucking out of that vacuum, you go,
Yes.
oh my
Yeah.
God, how do I let them
That's
leave?
exactly right. Yeah. Or the fuller brush people that would give a brush to the lady. So they had to demonstrate all of them for her to pick which one she wanted, but then she didn't want to live without the others as well to complete the set, you know? It's like
Yeah.
so, yeah, there's such a dynamic there when you start thinking about how can we use our assets, use the assets that we have to deploy as opportunities.
Yeah. Yeah. I think Mike was asking me a question here on the
Mhm.
insurance company. If you're an insurance company, and I didn't realize till you just said what you said, Dean, that what we do with our free 1 day boardroom is
Mhm.
really a loss leader. Like we pay
Mhm.
money, we pay for food, we rent a facility. So it costs us
Mhm.
thousands of dollars. We allow people to come in for free. They get answered. And I'd like to think, because almost
Mhm.
every time someone comes, they either invest in a training, they go, holy crap, he just answered a question I haven't gotten answered in 20 years. If I got that, what am I going to get from Food Dog over the next couple of years? And like the proof is already there. How would you do it in an insurance company?
Well, so there's the different things, right? Like every situation is different. You can't, it depends on the type of insurance, but you have to examine the situation. If you're thinking about auto insurance, for instance, if you examine the ecosystem that's around, or so auto insurance renews every 6 months. Homeowner policies are generally a year out. So if you kind of go to where are the situations, where's the journey where the leverage points are happening. So anytime somebody gets a new car, they're going to have to get it insured, or anytime a car exchanges, that would look for those opportunities, like get in front of the ecosystem, the natural path of things. Do you remember
Mm.
that? I was used as an example. Do you remember uh, years ago, Google had this series of ads that were that was called Search On, uh, and it was a whole story told in just through Google searches. I'll share it with you because it's 30 seconds, but you'll get like it's a whole story told in 30 seconds. So let me share. here, and I'll
While you're sharing, Jim Padilla, like I look at it as like a free sales audit, right? Same thing for you, Mike. I look at it like a free insurance audit because when you see the
mhm.
insurance company, when you audit somebody's stuff and you find, you're either going to find like they're doing great or they're doing really bad or they're missing something. But when you say, here's what you're missing, go back to your person and ask them, they start wondering, why the hell did they leave me at risk? That's happened to me with financial
Mm.
advisors.
Here's the commercial. This was the Super Bowl commercial that they did.
Okay, good morning. Impressed.
What a great journey in 50 seconds. You went from somebody starting out with
I
just
wonder if Amigo
searching
has any
for
new clients for me today.
studying
Where my
abroad
best leads come from.
to now we're assembling a crib. And
Yeah.
you think about what is the journey of somebody, especially with something that is going to, it may not be happening right now, but it's definitely going to happen in 6 months or a year. That you think
Mm,
about, and if you just take auto and home insurance, that nobody's really thinking about replacing their insurance policy midway in the middle of their term or 2 months after they've just gotten
right.
it. But when the renewal comes, that opens up a opportunity. And that's why Geico has spent so much time and money saying to people, 15 minutes could save you 15%. And they anchor that thought that when you get your new insurance policy and you are faced with now, you open the door, open the window for evaluation, and you think, wow, that's gone up or that's higher than I thought. And it anchors in the back of your mind, 15 minutes could save you 15%. Let's call and see what that could be.
Yeah, that's great. Dean, in one quick minute that you have left, tariffs. If you were to build any marketing ideas around leveraging what's happening in the economy today, what would be your strategy?
You know, I don't know specifically about tariffs where the things are going to happen, but I do know that relationships, like I think this whole ecosystem thing, people are going to do what people are going to do. They still have to do they still need the things that they need when they need them. And I think it really comes down to establishing your brand in their mind. And, of course, my definition of brand is a buying reflex affecting now decisions so that your
Mhm.
brand is going to overcome that's the most important thing, that when the time is come to renew my insurance, if I've set this brand up in people's mind, 15% in 15 minutes, that at the now decision, that moment it comes up, then you've gotten that. So I think getting crystal clear on having that, uh, you know, that's really timeless. I think the tariffs are going to come and go, and people are adaptable, right? We're like water. We just shift to whatever the new reality is.
Yeah, that's excellent. Hey, everybody, give Dean a huge boom and thank you in the chat bar below. Dean, thank you for over delivering
Awesome.
as
Always fun.
always. Super appreciate you, and I'll see you on the next call.
Yeah, buddy.